And that's when I realized something profound about human nature. We're all walking around with this fundamental misunderstanding about what actually drives success. And my father discovered this the hard way. But before I tell you what happened to him, let me ask you something. How many of you have ever felt like you're running on a hamster wheel, just spinning and spinning, working harder and harder, but somehow never getting to where you actually want to be? Yeah, I see those hands. I see those nods. My dad used to tell me stories when I was a kid, not fairy tales, not bedtime stories, but real stories about real people who changed everything. And there was this one story, this one piece of advice that he heard when he was about my age now, maybe a little younger. Um, and for years, for decades actually, he ignored it. He thought it was too simple, I don't know, too obvious to be the real answer. You know what's fascinating about human psychology? We're hardwired to believe that solutions have to be complicated, that if something isn't difficult, it can't be valuable. It's like it's like we've convinced ourselves that suffering is a prerequisite for success, and that's exactly the trap my father was in. So he's working 16-hour days, right? Building his engineering practice from the ground up. This is back in South Africa, and the competition was fierce. Brutal, actually. And every night he'd come home exhausted, stressed, wondering if he was doing enough, if he was smart enough, if he was enough, period. And the advice was sitting there the whole time, written on a piece of paper that he'd stuck in his desk stuck his desk drawer years earlier. But he wouldn't look at it, wouldn't even consider it, because it seemed too pedestrian for someone with his intelligence, with his capabilities. Now, I'm not going to tell you what that advice was just yet, but I will tell you this. When he finally decided to follow it, everything changed. Not gradually, not over months or years. Within weeks, his entire trajectory shifted. But here's the thing, and this is crucial. It's something you've heard before, something you probably dismissed just like he did. The magic was in the execution, in the commitment to actually doing it, despite how simple it seemed. You see, we live in this age of information overload, right? Everyone's got a course, everyone's got a system, everyone's got the one weird trick that's going to transform your life. And most of it is noise. Most of it is people selling complexity because complexity sells. Because if the solution is simple, why would you pay someone thousands of dollars to teach it to you? My father learned this lesson at 53 years old, 53. And I remember thinking, Dad, why did it take you so long? And his answer changed how I think about everything. He said, Elon, I wasn't ready to believe that the answer could be that straightforward. I needed to exhaust every complicated option first. That's us, isn't it? We need to make things harder than they have to be. We need to prove to ourselves that we've suffered enough to deserve success. It's like we think the universe is keeping score, and if we don't accumulate enough struggle points, we're not worthy of the reward. But what if I told you that's completely backwards? What if the most powerful strategies are actually the simplest ones? What if the reason most people fail isn't because they don't know enough, but because they know too much, because they're paralyzed by options, overwhelmed by complexity? Think about the most successful companies in the world. Apple. And what did they do? They simplified. They took complicated technology and made it intuitive. Amazon. What did they do? Sure, they made buying things as simple as clicking a button. Tesla. We took the most complex engineering challenge in transportation and focus on one simple goal. Make electric cars that people actually want to drive. Simplicity is not the enemy of sophistication. Simplicity is sophistication. Leonardo da Vinci said that, and he was right. So my dad, he's struggling, right? Working these insane hours, barely seeing his family, his health starting to get worse. Classic entrepreneur story, classic working trajectory. And he's got all these strategies, all these methodologies, all these complex systems for time management and productivity and client acquisition, and none of it was working. Well, it was working, but just barely. He was treading water when he wanted to be swimming laps. Then one day, and I remember this day because it was my birthday, he came home early, first time in months. And my mother asked him, "What happened? Did you lose a client?" And he laughed. He actually laughed. He said, "Look, no, I just decided to, try something different." And that's when I pulled out that piece of paper, that advice he'd been ignoring for years. And he read it out loud to our family. And we all just sat there staring at him because it was so obvious, so simple, so fundamental. But here's what you need to understand. Obvious doesn't mean easy. Simple doesn't mean effortless. The most profound truths are often the most basic ones. But basic doesn't mean they don't require discipline, commitment, consistency. My father's transformation didn't happen because he learned something new. It happened because he finally committed to doing something he already knew. Yeah, and that's the difference between knowing and doing. That's the gap that separates the successful from the struggling. You want to know what the advice was? You want to know the simple strategy that changed everything for him? I'm going to tell you, but first I need you to understand something. I need you to understand that when I tell you, your first reaction might be disappointment. You might think, that's it? That's the big secret. And if you do think that, you're proving my point about human nature and complexity bias. The advice came from a mentor of his, an older engineer who had built multiple successful firms. And this guy, this mentor, he was known for his ability to cut through noise to see the essential elements of any problem. And my father had asked him, "What's the one thing I should focus on if I want to scale my business?" And the mentor looked at him and said, "Well, let me set this up properly. My dad expected some complex framework, some sophisticated strategy. He had his notebook out, ready to write down steps 1 through 27. The mentor said, "Focus on one thing, do it better than anyone else, then do it again tomorrow. That's it." That was the advice. Focus on one thing, do it better than anyone else, then do it again tomorrow. My dad literally said, "That's it." And the mentor smiled and said, "That's everything." But my father didn't believe him. He thought it was too simple. He thought there had to be more. So he kept doing what he was doing, kept trying to optimize 17 different aspects of his business simultaneously, kept reading every business book, attending every seminar, implementing every new productivity hack. And he kept struggling until that day, my birthday, when he decided to actually try it, to actually focus on one thing. And the one thing he chose was this. Every single client interaction had to be exceptional, not good, not satisfactory, exceptional. He stopped trying to acquire new clients. He stopped trying to expand into new services. He stopped trying to optimize his marketing funnel. He focused entirely on making every existing client feel like they were his only client. And you know what happened? Within a month, his existing clients started referring new business. Within 2 months, he had a waiting list. Within 6 months, he was able to raise his prices significantly because the demand was so high. Within a year, he had built the most respected engineering firm in his region, all because he focused on one thing and did it better than anyone else every single day. But here's what's really interesting. The skill he developed wasn't just client service. The skill he developed was focus itself. The ability to ignore the noise, ignore the distractions, ignore the tempting opportunities, and just execute on one clear priority with absolute dedication. And once you develop that skill, once you really internalize the power of singular focus, you can apply it to anything. You can apply it to your relationships, your health, your personal development, your creative projects. The principle scales infinitely. I learned this lesson watching my father transform, and I've applied it to every company I've ever built. At SpaceX, our one thing is making life multiplanetary. Everything we do serves that goal. At Tesla, our one thing is accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy. At Neuralink, our one thing is developing brain-computer interfaces so that can help people with paralysis. One thing. Done better than anyone else. Repeated every day. But most people can't do this. You know why? Because focus requires sacrifice. Real focus means saying no to good opportunities so you can say yes to great ones. It means turning down interesting projects so you can perfect your core mission. It means accepting that you can't do everything, which feels like admitting weakness to a lot of people. And my father used to joke that he became successful the day he stopped trying to be successful at everything. He said, I spent years trying to be the best engineer and the best salesman and the best manager and the best networker. I was mediocre at all of them. When I decided to just be the best at serving my clients, everything else took care of itself. That's the paradox of success. The more you chase it directly, the more elusive it becomes. But when you focus on being excellent at one specific thing, success becomes a natural byproduct. And excellence isn't about perfection. Excellence is about consistency. It's about showing up every single day and trying to be incrementally better than you were yesterday. It's about treating each iteration as an experiment, each day as an opportunity to refine your approach. My dad kept a journal during his transformation. I still have it, and every entry ends with the same three questions. What did I do today to serve my clients better than anyone else could? What did I learn? How can I improve tomorrow? 3 questions every day for decades now. You see, the advice wasn't just about business. It was about identity. When you focus on doing one thing better than anyone else, you stop being someone who dabbles in success and start being someone who embodies it. You stop trying to convince people you're good at what you do and start demonstrating it through consistent results. And that shift in identity changes everything.
Hmm.
It changes how you make decisions, how you spend your time, how you respond to setbacks. When you're someone who does one thing better than anyone else, every challenge becomes an opportunity to prove that commitment. Every obstacle becomes a chance to demonstrate your dedication to excellence. My father faced a major crisis about 2 years into his transformation. One of his biggest clients, a client that represented about 40% of his revenue, decided to go with a larger firm, a cheaper firm. And for a moment, he panicked. For a moment, he considered abandoning his strategy and going back to trying to be everything to everyone. But then he remembered the advice. Focus on one thing, do it better than anyone else. And he realized that losing that client was actually an opportunity to demonstrate his commitment to excellence to his other clients, an opportunity to show them that he wouldn't compromise his standards just to keep a contract. So instead of dropping his prices or expanding his services to match the competition, he doubled down. He took the time he would have spent serving that client and invested it in making his service to his remaining clients even more exceptional. He started proactively identifying problems they didn't even know they had. He started delivering insights and recommendations that went far beyond the scope of his contracts. And you know what happened? Within 6 months, 3 of his remaining clients had expanded their projects. Within a year, he had replaced that lost revenue entirely with higher margin work from clients who valued excellence over efficiency. That's when he truly understood the power of the advice. It's not just about doing one thing well. It's about having the courage to be selective, to be exclusive, to say no to opportunities that would dilute your focus or compromise your standards. Most people think success is about addition, adding more skills, more services, more opportunities. But real success is about subtraction. You're subtracting everything that doesn't serve your core mission, eliminating everything that distracts you from being exceptional at your one thing. And this applies to personal life too. How many of you are trying to optimize 17 different aspects of your health simultaneously? So diet, exercise, sleep, meditation, supplements, biohacking, cold exposure, intermittent fasting. You're spreading your attention so thin that you're not excellent at any of them. What if instead you picked one? What if you decided to be better at sleep than anyone you know? What if you studied it, optimized it, perfected it, made it your thing? You'd probably see more improvement in your overall health than if you continued trying to do everything at once. Or relationships. How many of you are trying to be the perfect partner and the perfect parent and the perfect friend and the perfect colleague and the perfect community member? You're giving everyone a fraction of your attention instead of giving someone your full presence. What if you picked one relationship to be exceptional at? What if you decided that for the next year, your primary focus would be being the best partner you could possibly be? Not neglecting your other relationships, but making one of them your standard of excellence. The ripple effects would be extraordinary because excellence is contagious. When people experience true excellence from you in one area, they start expecting it in all areas. They start seeing you differently. They start treating you differently. They start referring to you differently. My dad became known as the engineer who cared more about his clients' success than his own profit. That reputation spread. It became his brand. It became his competitive advantage. It became impossible to replicate because it wasn't a technique or a strategy. It was an identity. And that's what happens when you follow the advice. You don't just improve your performance. You evolve your identity. You become someone who does one thing better than anyone else. And once that becomes who you are, success isn't something you chase, it's something you attract. But let me be clear about something. This isn't about limiting yourself. This isn't about being narrow or one-dimensional. My father didn't stop being an engineer, a husband, a father, a community member. He just made excellence in client service the lens through which he approached everything else. When he was with his family, he applied the same standards of attention and care that he brought to his client work. When he was involved in community projects, he approached them with the same commitment to doing things better than anyone else would. The focus created a foundation of excellence that elevated everything in his life. Because once you develop the discipline to be truly exceptional at one thing, that discipline becomes transferable. That standard becomes your baseline. I see the same thing in successful entrepreneurs all the time. They master focus in one domain and then they can apply that mastery to anything they touch. Elon, I mean, I've seen this pattern over and over again. The people who try to be excellent at everything simultaneously usually end up being mediocre at most things. But the people who become truly exceptional at one thing develop a capacity for excellence that they can deploy anywhere. So let me ask you, what's your one thing? What's the single area where you could commit to being better than anyone else? Not better than everyone at everything, but better than anyone at one specific thing. And don't say you don't know. Don't say you need time to think about it. You know, deep down, you know exactly what it is. It's the thing you keep putting off because it seems too simple, too obvious, too basic. It might be listening. It might be writing. It might be solving problems. It might be making people feel valued. It might be organizing chaos into clarity. It might be asking the right questions. It might be following through on commitments. Whatever it is, you know what it is. The question is, are you ready to commit to it? Are you ready to say no to everything else so you can say yes to being exceptional at that one thing? Because that's what it takes. Real commitment. Not interest, not enthusiasm, not good intentions. Commitment. The decision that this is who you are now and everything you do will serve that identity. My father made that commitment at 53. But imagine if he had made it at 23. Imagine if you make it today. Imagine where you'll be in 6 months, in a year, in 5 years, if you focus on one thing and do it better than anyone else every single day. That's the advice that changed my father's life. That's the advice that's changed my life. That's the advice I'm sharing with you today. Focus on one thing. Do it better than anyone else. Then do it again tomorrow. Simple? Yes. Easy. Number? Powerful? Absolutely. The choice is yours. You can keep trying to optimize everything and excel at nothing. Or you can choose your one thing and commit to being exceptional. What's it going to be?